Cruise ship hotel workers have read it. What is something you aren't allowed to tell us? Ex-hotel employee here. If you ever need to cancel a hotel reservation but it's already past the cancellation deadline, just call and move your reservation up a few days. Wait 5 minutes. Call back. Now well within the cancellation window. And cancel your stay for free. Hotel worker here. Ask for everything you need. It will be provided. Also complain about every problem you see. You won't believe the amount of free stuff complainers get. It's awful. And never forget to tip your bellboy. Odds are, someone died on your cruise. Think about all the old folks you see get onto the boat. For a lot of them this is their retirement home, and cheaper than a lot of other retirement homes. They are literally taking cruises until they die and we eventually find them in their cabins. I currently work as a housekeeper. Seasonal summer. People leave anything and everything behind. Forget your curling iron? We probably have one. Need a charger? Yep. Toys for your child? You got it. If you ask. While we're in between rooms or cleaning a common area, we'd love to help you out. No one really asks. Edit these occurrences. Policies may not be the case at every hotel, so calm down. Get a free fridge in your room. Say it is a medical need for medication. HIPAA laws mean they can't pressure details out of you. May not work for smaller hotel but should for most larger hotels cruises. You Pixelix had some great insights into what goes on below the decks on a cruise ship the last time this was asked. Mortani, I'm a cruise ship worker. First one is, we don't want you to know that we actually have more fun than the guests. Sure, we'll work the big white hot party that you're all going to. But once we finish our shift all hell is breaking loose in the crew bar. More than just below and to the sides of where you are sleeping there are crew members having sex, smoking and drinking. Our beers are $1. No drugs or spirits though. More than we also don't want you to know that all those funny jokes we tell you at bingo, yeah, same ones are said every single cruise. That really funny answer you gave us about your wife during the happy couples game? Heard it. It was said last cruise and the one before that. And the one before that. More than we are not allowed to duck to passengers. But we do know all the nooks and crannies the cameras don't reach. More than there are morgues below deck and a jail cell. We get at least 3 deaths on board a month. Some people go on a cruise to die. More than no, I do not know where Jack Rose is. They're not real people. I worked as an improv actor on a cruise once for 6 months. What we don't tell you is half the show is scripted. We just tie in your suggestions. Going on a cruise in less than a month. I need this thread to blow up. That norovirus is more common than you think. There aren't enough lifeboats on most modern cruise ships. Generally speaking, about 2/3 of those on board can fit on the boats and rafts. The assumptions being the ship won't sink, and b, if it does, about 1/3 of the passengers wouldn't make it to the boats anyway, for legal purposes. However, the cruise line needs to be covered in case there is a sinking. So, once 2/3 of berths have been booked, the remainder are offered on heavy discounts. The kind you see advertised. If you do book one of those on sale berths, read the small print on your booking and you will find that you are only entitled to a place on the boat if no full price passengers are there to claim it. Obviously, we try to avoid telling people that. Source: I work in legal for a cruise company and OP forgot to tag this as serious. Edit: I get that this upsets people. Do see your point of view, but this is a joke. You can always scroll past it to the other answers. That is all. Spoiler. Yeah, I can finally answer this. I work at an upscale resort. Nights average $500 a night. I work in the entertainment department, meaning we help with both the daycare center and with large groups in-house that companies host. I will say that our child daycare is pretty safe. The only sketchy thing I would say is that we will always tell you that your kid had a good time, regardless if they had been crying up until just before you got there. Parents leave their numbers with us to call if the kid wants to go home, but whenever a kid complains that they want to go home, we do everything in our power to make sure that they stay. Cause $$. Also, the in-group activities that we do, biking, hiking etc., are sometimes made up on the spot. Since the entertainment dept decided not to properly train us in all of our offered activities, newer staff, generally the people that only work summers, are told the morning of that they're running a certain activity and given a really vague rundown of how it's supposed to go and told to do their best to make stuff up but make sure it sounds good. Companies pay thousands of dollars for these activities, but I can assure you the thought that goes into these activities is essentially zero. Not allowed to sleep with guests. Tons of work set instead. Cruise. The staff on most all cruise lines are not trained nearly well enough to handle an abandoned ship situation. It would be chaos if it were to happen on a large vessel. The safety briefing you go to is just theater, and we want to be there even less than you do. Norovirus is way more common on ships than you would think. Security staff on ships are poorly equipped to handle a major security breach like an active shooter situation. The words "Bright Star" over the PA indicates a medical emergency is happening and is a page for medical staff to respond. The captain earns bonuses for saving fuel. Leaving port early or arriving late means the ship can go slower and conserve fuel, which means more money for the captain. I worked for a fancy restaurant in a tourist town that catered to cruise line passengers looking to get away from the ships. Our desserts were frozen and shipped to us from a company named Gourmet Chefs, so when you read the menu description and we say that all of our desserts are prepared by Gourmet Chefs, we aren't lying. They were just reheated and prepared by a high school kid making $3 an hour. Disney employees are not allowed to discuss the numerous instances of employees of Disney's cruise ships molesting children. In this case, Disney even protected the child molester. Last year Disney refused to timely report a similar incident when a 33-year-old Disney waiter molested an 11-year-old girl on the Disney Dream. Although the incident occurred while the cruise ship was in Port Canaveral, Disney sailed the cruise ship to the Bahamas in what appeared to be an attempt to aid the crew member in escaping justice. The Bahamas, as Disney expected, refused to arrest the molester, and Disney then flew the crew member back to his home country, India. WKMG covered the disturbing story. You can see photos of the incident here and read our account of the crime here. I'm a front desk manager at a hotel. I want to jump in and say something before this gets real big. When this kind of thread pops up, someone always says that the front desks can upgrade or change rates for a guest if the guest is nice to them, tips them. While this may happen sometimes, it is not common. If one of my employees gave someone a cheapo rate, he has to explain why. It will come up in our reports. That being said, hotels are a ton of fun. I can't think of any big secrets, but I will say this. If you have any questions or requests, no matter how stupid or weird, let the staff know. We love to help people. That's why we went into the industry, and it makes it a lot better for both the guest and the staff when we can help you while you're still in the hotel, and not when you're calling corporate after checkout to complain. I've read quite a few things about people dying, disappearing while on cruises. Can anyone confirm the magnitude of this? Tip the housekeepers. They'll pay it and deal with a lot of used condoms. That hotel sometimes overbook rooms, typically more so in the summer since that's a busy season. They are relying on some people either cancelling or not showing up. Always a good idea to call and confirm your reservation on the day of arrival, especially if you're gonna be late. Oh, I once had the life. I was at the top of my game in a mediocre burger joint that my family owned for generations. I used to make my kids go out and find new customers. One day I sent them to the docking harbor to convince sailors to come over. That's when it started. The captain of a cruise liner came over to my shop and offered my family and I a free night on the ship if I simply cooked the ship's meals for that one night. After taking part in the buffet I made, I suddenly realized the boat had left port, and the captain had other plans for me. He threw me into the ship's kitchen with another locked up Frenchman who was slightly flamboyant and kept on asking me to kiss him. Before I knew it, my family and I were trapped on a cruise ship for life. I tried raising mutiny, but no one wanted to help a mediocre fry cook. Ever since then, I can only look through my small port window of my kitchen station as we sail past the Jamaican coast. Edit. It's not like I would start out this comment with, on a cartoon show I saw a cook enslaved. The workers all hook up with each other all the time. The staff cheat on their partners back on land all the time. Hotelier here. I worked in numerous luxury 5-star properties worldwide. You will be shocked if you know the food quality in buffets. I've seen yellow food coloring added and labeled as saffron sauce. Pan-fried sea bass? Haha. It's pan-fried white fish that comes in generic bags labeled white fish. People change the expiration date on stuff so that the food cost doesn't increase. The amount of frozen food sold and labeled as fresh is astounding. A la carte food tends to have much better quality. I work as a longshoreman at a cruise ship terminal. More people die on cruises than you realize. Mostly old people. Norovirus is very common but more during flu season. Crew member go missing, often hitching a free ride to Nick. Rare occasion your luggage will fall in the water being loaded onto the ship. The ship will give you a very itty refund for your loss of luggage. And if you're going to a berth with more than one ship docked, make sure you know what ship you're going on. Idiots tend to let their luggage get on the wrong ship and have a lovely week without it. Word of advice: if you're getting on a cruise ship in Nick, if your ship leaves at 4 o'clock, get there at 1:30 or 2 o'clock. You will avoid the crowds and the check-in lines and your luggage will be attended to right away. We pray you don't finish all that banquet food so we can D.O. and untouched food eaten out of bus tubs. That's a thing. Hotel worker here also. When you bring your children to our hotel for sporting events, baseball tourneys, etc., we really hate you more than them because you get drunk and ignore them while they tear our hotel apart. Generally speaking, hotel guests who book through Expedia and other websites are expendable if we gotta walk someone. Also, you are booking the itty rooms at the highest price if you do it last minute. Do it long in advance and you are still booking crappy inventory. Groups and corporate travelers always get better treatment cause they come back and represent a lot more login term revenue than you. People that book online are like people that switch toothpaste cause one is cheaper this week. You are not loyal. If you were, you'd book direct. Every hotel has a huge box of chargers in back of house. Every kind of charger imaginable. I don't even bring one with me when I travel anymore. Don't work on a cruise ship, but ended up hanging out with several people who do while drunk the last night of a cruise. If you're looking for somewhere discreet and your room is not available for whatever reason, the laundry rooms don't have cameras and do have locks on the doors. Wild it happens they're late at night. Former hostel worker. We weren't allowed to book gypsies, or even let them in and buy our coffee and chill in the lobby. Apparently they always stole stuff, like 100% of the time, according to my bosses. I let them in once and I got robbed at. Worked for a while on Princess. The cruise line pays for the time that any boat is docked. Therefore it is good for the bottom line if the ship gets out of port as soon as possible. Ports that are closer to a big city cost more money. That's why we would sometime dock far away from a major destination and passengers would have to take a train to the big city. The ship only makes good money while it's out at sea. So I've been on voyages that would spend a late afternoon night at sea instead of in port. In spite of two destinations being 30 minutes from one another, there are situations I've seen on Atlantic crossing voyages. The destination locations are listed that the ship will be visiting, but no one has had good enough weather to get into that port in years. It just makes it look like there will be a destination instead of repeated days at sea. The labor force on different cruise lines tend to be preferred by different ethnicities. There are actually two crew bars, one for the officers and one for the rest of the crew. Boils down to being pretty racist, with one for English speakers and one for everyone else. As a non-officer, I was literally not allowed to dance with customers on the club dance floor. Drinks and cigarettes are hella cheap for the crew. Patter jokes for most shows are repeated week in week out. On Princess, there was a 9:1 guy to girl ratio among the crew. Suffice it to say that hella ugly chicks were goddamn prizes. At IHG hotels, that is Holiday Inn, Staybridge Suites, Crown Plaza etc., if you say you're there for a funeral death, and you ask for the bereavement rate, it's close to 50% off. We also weren't allowed to mention it exists, or give the rate unless directly asked for it by a guest checking in. Something else we hid from guests, generally when a guest booked a room from a third-party company, Orbitz, Booking, Expedia, they typically paid more. Our managers had us go out of our way to hide that from guests. Lastly, if a guest came into the hotel that didn't fit their ideal guest, that is, tattoos, tattered clothes, etc., we were instructed to quote a much higher room price, and if they decided to stay, to actually charge them this inflated price. Been on 3 cruises now as a passenger. Last one was great. Heaps of PPL turfed out in far-flung ports. 2 women got in a punch-up in the laundry. Things got heated over the shortage of machines, then someone threw chocolate into a dryer. Cue the punching. Another couple got caught shagging in the elevator at 11 PM by a family with young kids. The shagging CPL were married too. Just not to each other. Edit. I forgot about the molester. He was knocking on cabin doors, and if a guy answered he'd apologize and leave. If a lady answered he was grabbing some boob and running off. Kinda late, but I actually for once have a relevant comment. D. I worked at Holiday Inn Express for a little bit. Spread a towel out on the counter before putting your stuff on it. Because I know some of my co-workers will go from floor to shower to toilets to sink with the same rag. We typically get 10 rags a day to clean. They are color coded to match the cleaner they're used with. That is, bathroom is pink, window glass is blue, dusting solution is yellow, and we use 2 or 3 per room. If you have 15 rooms, that means you use the same cleaning rag for 3 bathrooms. And for the guest, that's the best case scenario. I know girls who would do 12 rooms or more with 2 rags, bathroom and not bathroom. Nobody gave a duck. The goal was to remove all traces of the last guest and make it smell nice. It was the most disgusting and demeaning job I've ever had. Hotel worker. We advertise as our tap water as triple filtered. It's not. Complain politely and I'll compute tons of it. We talk about you when you walk away. Hell, usually we talk about you before you walk up to us. Ships can dump toilets directly out to the sea when they are far enough from shore. Sometimes they cheat and do it a little closer in. Sometimes they do it at port. Don't get in the water down current from a cruise ship. Also, a lot of liners will dump trash at sea, especially if they are going really far from shore or will be on the water a while. Usually this is stinky food waste, but sometimes they just dump the whole lot. Front desk agent here. When you order movies through the television, we know what you watched. So when you watch all of Backdoor Sluts 9, then call the desk and say, oh, I didn't know what I chose. We know you are a lying ass who doesn't want that mysterious $15 charge on your bill because the company is paying. Also, I despise people who intentionally go around rooms looking for the slightest thing to complain about. Have even had people go as far as sabotaging rooms to try and get free nights. One of the worst parts about working for a brand that has a 100% satisfaction guarantee, you will come across a lot of adults throwing tantrums like a 5-year-old. Then later they try and be all buddy-buddy with you and all you can think about is sitting on their pillow. I may have farted on someone's pillow when they were being extremely difficult and rude. Don't know if they got pink eye. Rule of thumb. Never treat the staff like it. They are people too, and for goodness sake they are taking care of you. Also, don't bash on maids. For example, I get why do your maids speak Spanish so much? Well, it's pretty ducking simple. It's their native language. Doesn't make them less of a person, and they are the hardest working people in the hotel and get the least amount of money. Plus they have access to your IT daily and there aren't cameras in rooms, so be nice. Was anyone working on the Carnival Triumph that got stranded? My aunt was on there and she is absolutely evil, so just know everything you went through helped karma serve a mean lady. Not really a secret, but I found it interesting from beasting with the waiter on my cruise. If you're eating in the dining room, the kitchen is set up so for the first 15ish minutes the cooks are all turning out various appetizers, salads, and soups. So chef 1, 2, and 3 are all making shrimp cocktail after shrimp cocktail and throwing it on the line. Chef 4, 5, 6 are making the escargot, etc. Your server takes your order and starts grabbing items off the line. After the 15 minutes are up, the cooks switch the line over to entree production. Same process repeats. The problem is when you order an appetizer, salad, or soup after your entree or after the line has swapped over, it messes up the flow and they have a smaller number of cooks available to make any of those out of order items. People that's in the pool regularly. We had a fiend in our crew who was constantly snooping through passengers' pill bottles looking for any sort of opioid. Keep your stuff well hidden. Just like airlines, hotels purposefully oversell. The hotel will purposefully sell more rooms than it has and banks on cancellations, no-shows. It's very possible at any given time that you could show up with a reservation and be walked to another property, where the hotel will then pay for your room at another location. That might sound like a sweet deal if you're traveling for leisure, but it's a huge pain in the ass if your company is footing the bill and you've been traveling all day and just want to climb into a bed. I spent 6 years with RCL. When you die you go from guest to cargo on our paperwork. 9/10 cruises someone died. 50/50 it was a suicide. Panama Canal repositioning cruises, west coast to east coast, are the worst for losing older guests. When we entered the canal, deck chairs on the observation decks become a hot item. We blast do not save deck chairs over the PA system for days before, but nobody listens. It is always the same scenario. Grandma is not hungry so she volunteers to wait with the family's chairs while the rest of the gang gets breakfast. After breakfast they stop at a shop or two. Lose track of time. Well, it's 40°C in the shade. 100% humidity and that's before 10 AM. By the time they get back grandma's being cooked in her own juices. Also, we have cameras watching the hot tubs that the bridge and engine control room monitor 24/7. If you decide to bump stuff with your soul late at night, there are likely more than 6 or 7 different nationalities watching you. I worked as a room service attendant in a 3-star hotel. Nothing too crazy, but boy were there some crazy stories. I worked with a woman at front desk who had been doing night shifts for over 30 years. One day I asked her a question similar to yours. What can you not tell me about this place? What are the secrets? What's something that would freak me out? She knew every single room where someone had died. She knew how they died, when, what time of day, everything. She never forgot. She's obviously not allowed to tell customers this information, but boy it was fascinating.